as she sweeps through the waters to rescue you and me, and land us safely in the port with friends we love so dear. Get ready, cries the captain, oh look, she's almost here. Then cheer, my brother, cheer, our trials will soon be o'er. Our loved ones we shall meet upon that golden shore. We're pilgrims and we're strangers here, we're seeking a city to come. The lifeboat soon is coming to gather the jewels home.
Oh, now's the time to get on board while she is passing by. But if you stand and wait too long, you shall forever die. The fare is paid for one and all. The captain bids you come and get on board the lifeboat. She'll carry you safely home.
Then cheer, my brother, cheer, our trials will soon be o'er. Our loved ones we shall meet upon that golden shore. We're pilgrims and we're strangers here, we're seeking a city to come. The lifeboat soon is coming to gather the jewels home. The lifeboat soon is coming to gather the jewels home. We're floating down the stream of time, we have not long to stay. The stormy clouds of darkness will turn to brightest day. Then let us all take courage, for we are not left alone. The lifeboat soon is coming to gather the jewels home. Then cheer, my brother, cheer, our trials will soon be o'er. Our loved ones we shall meet upon that golden shore. We're pilgrims and we're strangers here, we're seeking a city to come. The lifeboat soon is coming to gather the jewels home.
Psalms. And that promise was, and I'll just read verse number 7, 12:7 in Psalm. Thou shalt keep them, O Lord, speaking of his pure words, thou shalt preserve them from this generation ever. So what we've really been studying in this entirety, not just the inspiration of the word. Now, inspiration of the word is very important. And when we say inspiration of the word, we are saying we believe that God gave us the words of the Bible by inspiration, so that every word that's in the Bible is really the Word of God. It's not the words of men, but it's the Word of God. So when God first gave these, and we talked about them being called the original autographs, they call them, and that's simply when the men first wrote them down. Now God gave them absolutely word for word from a common sense. Wouldn't it make common sense if God was going to give the Bible word for word that He would preserve the Bible word for word? I mean, it would be seem strange to give it and lose it within the first 100 years. So, from a common sense approach, and I'm going to have to confess, I am a common sense person. It is, Jim, it's my belief, you can correct me if I'm wrong, being raised up in this area, and I think he was too, we put a high value on common sense. And a lot of people in our state, especially I'm sure other places as well, were people that had good common sense. We knew when to coming out of the rain, didn't we, Brother Jim? You know, some people. We recognized intellect, but the stress in our day growing up, good common sense. And so that was stress. And it's just good common sense, for example, that God would do that. Let me give you another common sense thing that kind of illustrates what I'm saying. Now you've got a lot of women in the United States of America very, very upset over reproductive freedom, rights to reproductive freedom, you know. And if we were trying to tell a woman what she could do with her body, she had to have children or couldn't have children, I could see, you know. I don't think that that's really what we that are pro-life are doing at all. You know, if a woman don't want to have a child or wants to have interest, I haven't seen that to be part of what we really are against, and I think it's an understanding, it's common sense. The woman would say, I have a right to have an abortion if I don't want to have a child. I have a right to terminate my pregnancy. Now, she'd say it that way. I guarantee you. We would say, speaking of the same thing, as common sense, you're saying you have the right to kill that unborn child within you. Oh, they wouldn't want to say it that way, would they? But that's it. See, that's common sense. That's what and we're saying. We agree with you up to that point, but that child has rights too. You cannot violate. You cannot kill a child once that child is here. You can prevent that child from coming here. There may be exceptions to that. But see what I'm trying to say? That's a common sense approach, rather than saying some of the things that, and I think I can kind of say this. I know I'm sure all of you glad that Mr. Trump won, right? In fact, he had a decisive victory. He didn't just take battleground states, he took blue states. But I'm going to tell you one of the reasons, common sense. I think America all over is common sense. One lady said about Beyonce singing or being there for Harris. Beyonce don't buy my groceries, you know. And common sense, all that stuff had nothing to do with common sense. And so we got down to the common sense issues. Trump had a decisive victory, and I'm rejoicing over that because I was thinking, although I don't know, Brother Jim, people either got common sense or they don't have it, right? Many of the Democrats, I was really disappointed. Tim Walz, I read on your phone, and if you believe your phone, and I don't know if you get, but they said he had said, well, we're going to fight all the changes the president wants. We're going to fight for reproductive rights. We're going to fight for immigrants. I was wanting him to say, I don't mind him saying, we're going to stand where we stand for our beliefs, but as much as possible, we're going to cooperate with our president. Wouldn't that have been a good thing to say? Right. Wherever we can, we're going to work with the president to make this a better nation. There may be some things we disagree, we can't work on. And once again, that's kind of common sense. So common sense tells us, and that's what we've been studying concerning the Bible. Common sense says that the God who gave the Bible could preserve that Bible as he said he would from generation to generation. And I can say it like this. Would any of you have thought, and I admit I wouldn't, would you really have thought that Trump would have got a decisive victory, winning all the battleground states, winning blue states, even winning the total of majority of the popular vote? We would have hoped he won. But what I'm trying to say is, if God could do that, would y'all say that's pretty miraculous? I mean, it was wonderful. It's pretty miraculous. Wouldn't you think God could preserve His Word down through the century? Understand?
Amen.
It's not a big stretch to believe God could do that. That's what we're studying. And we're going to be looking at this morning. I think I'm coming up there. Let me see if my clicker's going here. Well, Brian, you got us on lesson 5, techniques of transition.
What's your clicker?
Oh, okay. Like Brian, like technical man, he keeps it. Brian, people my age, technology is not the big thing. Is it that over this kid? Floppy drive. All right. Tell the truth, Christian guide to the study of the preservation of the Bible, you say, and but it's a guide to a trustworthy Bible, and I have these this morning for a purpose. Now we got the King James Bible, okay? All you have your King James Bible, I have mine. We got a very popular Bible, the New American Standard Bible. We have the New International Version of the Bible, and today, for a specific reason, I brought another Bible. Look at all these Bibles, and they're different. This is the Living Bible. Any of y'all remember that? It kind of was popular for a while. It kind of faded out. Y'all remember the Living Bible?
Yeah.
Y'all correct me. Chad, you help me out now. Now Chad's a hard worker, and I think, and it's a great compliment. He got a lot of common sense. I believe that, Chad. I think you have.
A little bit.
Remember, what is it? Was it Billy Graham that made this Bible popular? Can you remember? Some of y'all remember? But the Living, this is one of kind of the first things, and so this is another Bible. And I brought these Bibles for a reason as we study today, and we'll look at those. So we, a Christian Guide, Trustworthy Bible, lesson 5.1, and we're looking at techniques of translation. Now, well, let's get to the introduction. We'll see what I'm talking about. One of the things about these Bibles that I've held up, all these Bibles, is while the King James Version of the Bible come from the Textus Receptus text, that's one text. Modern versions, such as the NIV and NASB, come from the Westcott Hort text. So what I'm saying is the King James Bible comes from one, the majority text, the received text is where it comes from. These other Bibles don't even come from that text. It's an entirely different text. It's been changed, and it's called the Westcott Hort text. So you've got the King James Bible coming from one text, and that accounts for differences in the Bible. Number one, they don't come from the same text. Okay? Second thing is different techniques of translation, which we're looking at today. Not only were they from different texts used for these Bible versions, but different techniques of translation were also used in the preparation of these different versions. And I will say this, two things make these Bibles very, very different. Very, very different, okay? Number one, they didn't come from the same text. And so, one text may read one way, and the people who support the modern version Bible, they say these ancient texts are more accurate, and they were different. So, if you translate from a different text, that's something different, what are you going to get? Something different, see? So, because of the text, but I think one of the greatest reasons that these versions of the Bible are really different is because of the techniques of translation, which we're going to look at this morning on part one of it. So two things that makes different versions of the Bible so different. Number one, they came from different texts. Number two, not only with different texts, but they were from different techniques of translation used to prepare them, making them very different. Okay, this lesson we're going to examine the different techniques of translation used in the preparation of these versions of the Bible. Why are there so many versions? First question. And the answer from the New American Standard Bible would be the basic reason for different versions of the Bible is they were prepared using different techniques, method of translation, which I certainly agree. That is the reason. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Point it at the computer. This is where the thing is that controls it. It's not the TV screen.
Okay, point it at you.
Or the computer.
Hey, sometimes that point, well, I guess it just puts it up off the side. Okay, thank you, Brother Brian.
This should work.
What are these different techniques that were used in prayer, these versions? And there are actually three. We're going to look at them. Answer from the NIV, the National Version. There are three different methods used for techniques of translation. The first one is called the formal or literal equivalency technique. It's a method in which the Bible is translated word from the original language to the receptor. In other words, they were translated from the Hebrew and the Greek and the Aramaic, word for word, into the King James Bible. Okay? Word for word. They didn't change anything. They didn't add anything. They just, one little section I'll show you there, but they translated word for word. Actually, two of these Bibles are word for word. We'll look at that. So the first one is the formal or the literal equivalency technique. The second one is the dynamic equivalency technique. Is a method which the Bible is translating not word for word, but thought for thought, which the Bible is translating thought for thought from literal language to receptive language. And this, they would read it and they would say, well, this is what I believe it means. But it wasn't word for word. So some Bibles don't have a word for word. It's a kind of like what I told one of your daughters this morning. And this is a thought for thought translation of what Brother Brian said. I walked up and said to Haley, I said, Haley, I'm so excited. Brother Brian told me, your dad told me, I get to share y'all's car. That's a thought for thought translation. And she kind of turned pale. And I said, the last thing you want her is that, right? He's already sharing her car. But you're letting an individual, even if he's the brightest person in the world, take the thoughts of God and put it into what they think God meant. Does that bother you? In fact, what Scripture come to me, Brother Chad, my thoughts are not your thoughts. My thoughts are higher than your thoughts. Even if I was the most gifted, intellectual person in the world, I could not do that because, first of all, who could even understand the thoughts of God, right? Yeah. Well, if you've been a Christian very long, you see God do some things. It's just you think it's going to go one way, it goes the other, and it's always right. It's really a good thing. But so we have a thought for thought, not even word for word. That's a technique of translation. So when they was doing a Bible, they said, okay, we're going to write down this because this is what we believe it meant. And we want to have a better than word for word, their key thought in there, better than word for word. We want you to have the same thought that the ancient readers had. And so they change it so that it kind of fits today's situation so you'll have the same thoughts. So they're saying that's a better way of doing it. Then there's what's called the free method technique. Is a method which is not a word for word, nor a thought for thought translation of the original language to the receptive language, not from the Greek and Hebrew to the English language, but it's best described as a paraphrase. So I brought these Bibles to illustrate this. This Bible is King James Bible. It is a literal or formal equivalency, word for word. Maybe to your surprise, but there are some differences here. But this particular Bible, that's the reason a lot of colleges like it, is also a word for word. It's not a thought for thought, really. The basic principle we use, not thought for thought, although there are some differences here. But it didn't come from the same text. See? It is word for word from a different text. So these would be formal equivalency, these two. This particular Bible is wholly dynamic equivalency, thought for thought. In fact, I think of my seminary training. Mr. English, you told me some years back that, well, Melton, you don't know nothing. You need to go get some schooling. Is that you that told me that? No. But I did go off to seminary, so I get some training. I figured that one out, Mr. Dean, after 10.5 years of pastoring. But when I say that, what I just said a while ago, I think about what I heard in seminary. Here's what I heard. Well, the King James translators missed here. Let me tell you what it means. I heard that again and again by some of my professors. And Brother Chad, every time he said that, I said, If those King James translators missed it, smart as they was, buddy, you ain't got a chance. That's what I thought every time. Now those younger students bought into all that, they're taking Greek and Hebrew. We know more now than average people do, but I didn't buy it. So this is a thought for thought, okay? So you got formal equivalency, dynamic equivalency, and now you've got what's called the free method. That's what this is. This is a great illustration. And I'm going to read to you what it says at the thing. It says in the front, a thought for thought translation, but it says at the top, paraphrased. This is a free translation. Well, I'm going to say this. Even these other, this really, to me, is a paraphrase. It's commentary. I wouldn't call it a Bible. I'd call it a commentary. This is a commentary. And they say this is paraphrase, which means we just put it in our own words. We're going to tell you. And so this Bible thing, this is the free method, which is a paraphrase. This is a dynamic equivalency, which they tried to take the thoughts and put it in the thoughts. These are the literal or formal, which they did use a word-for-word translation from the text they had, but they were different texts. Okay? So there we have all three methods illustrated in Bibles that I think we'd be more accustomed to. There you go, everybody. What method of translation we use to construct you is the question and answer from the King James. My translators use the literal or the formal equivalency technique, word-for-word method of translation. Now here's what I want you to see, and I'm pretty sure you may be familiar with this. There are some words in my King James Bible that was not in the Greek, the Hebrew, or Aramaic text. What are you talking about? Well, this is what I'm talking about. When a word translated from the original language into English was not clear, it was sometimes necessary for clarity's sake to add an English word that did not have a Greek equivalent. So my translator would place the word in italics to indicate this word was not found in the original Greek text. So if you see an italicized word in the King James Bible, there's not a corresponding Greek word. But to make it make sense for clarity, there's differences between languages, and they had to do that to make it clear. But when they did, they put it in italics. But this shows the reverence they had for the text which they translated. They wanted you to know, we want you to know, we word for word exactly what's in our text. But if we have to use another word, we will put it in italics. So this is what they did for clarity. So your King James Bible is a word for word, but it does have a few words that was added that italicized. They inserted to make it clearer. All right. All right. What method of translation we use to construct you? We'll look at the answer of the same question, the NASB, New American Standard Bible. Like the King James Bible, I'm a literal word-for-word translation. Now that surprises a lot of people, but it really is, but there are some exceptions to that, and you're going to see the exceptions. However, now here's your question. We're talking about methods of translation. I used another method, is what he said. I'm from a different text, was composed by using some of the most ancient manuscripts and by using techniques of advanced, but I come from a better text. So I didn't come from the King James text, but I am from that particular text word for word. And then here's another difference in method. Unlike the King James Version, many words or phrases used in my version were changed into contemporary English, making it easier to read in the King James Version. So you won't find any these, but you know they would talk about these and thys, but that ain't all they changed. They changed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of words. It had nothing to do with these and thys. And I kind of like the these and thys, but anyway, they changed those. So the NASB was a literal, but it is put into contemporary English. I want to point right direction. What method of translation used to construct you? Method of translation technique. The NIV, it says, the dynamic equivalency technique, a thought-for-thought method we used to prepare my version. My translator sought to translate my version from the thoughts of the original language to the thoughts of the English language. And they also express these words using contemporary words, making it easy to read in the archaic English words using the King James Version. We might call the King James Version Old English, okay? Old English, instead of contemporary English. And the reason these Bibles are popular, both the NIV, when I talk to college students, and I had a minister who went to campus giving out King James Bibles, they said, well, I've got my NIV. I like it because it's so much easier to understand. And what they would say, it uses words that I'm familiar with. Now, if I had said to them, boy, that's cool, they'd have looked at me like I was crazy. Why? Because you can no longer say it's cool because it wasn't cool to say it was cool. Understand? In fact, I think they even say now, used to, they say, that's sick. And I thought, oh, that's bad. No, that means it's good. What do you mean sick means good? We would say it's cool. Those words change all the time. So the words they put in them 2 years ago might be different words today. They're very, but the King James words mean and stay the same. So they use words that people were more familiar with at their time. There you go. Another question, do you think that contemporary wording found in the NASB, NASB, and NIV are more accurate than the archaic word found in the King James Version? Well, here's the answer for NIV. The contemporary wording used in my version, that of the NASB, make it easier for our readers to understand the original thoughts of our writers than the archaic words found in the King James Version. They say, yeah, we think the words we use make it better than the archaic words. Since our words better express the thoughts of the original writers and words understood by today's readers, I believe we're more accurate than the King James Version, and that's really what they say. That's exactly what they will tell you. Our wording makes it easier, and we're much better than the archaic words. Now, when the other version of the Bible became popular in our area, 1970s, before that time it was King James Version. If you was in school and they read out of a Bible, Brother Jim, what version of the Bible they read out of?
King James.
King James Version, that's all we had. But they came along and said, oh, these other Bibles are the King James Bible made easier to understand. That is not true. Didn't come from the same text at all. Not true. But they would say we're replacing thee, thys, and what is it? Ye's. All right? So the NIV would say, yes, it's better than the archaic words. Now, well, let's see. Do you agree on the same question? Is better than the King James translators use. The NASB, yes, contemporary use of my version express the meaning of the original language in words that are easier to understand than the words of the King James Version. So this Bible claim, we use words easier to understand. Therefore, we're better than the King James is there. Okay. And once again, the same question. Now, ask from the King James. Do you agree that English language used today is more capable of expressing the meaning of the original language than the words used by the King James? And the answer the King James gives is, no, I do not. And here's what I want you to understand. The English language of 1611 was more capable of expressing the meaning of the Hebrew and Greek language from which the Bible was translated than today's English or contemporary English. While these versions appear easier to read because of the use of familiar words, they are nevertheless less accurate. Accuracy, okay, because of the translation, because of the method. Easier to read, but not accurate. It's like going back. Remember when you used to go to the bank, they give you a toaster if you open the account? Y'all remember that? They give you prizes, awards. Remember that, Jim? Yeah. Really have to be old, remember that. Now they run a background check on you. But these they're saying, you know, here's these easier words, and it's easier for you to understand. But the easier words are not accurate. We want to look at that. Do you agree that the NASB is a little word-to-word translation? Now this is where we're going to look at the difference. As for King James, no, it's only a partial word-for-word translation. The NASB translators, like the NIV, use the dynamic equivalency method at time. Yes, it is a word-for-word, except the translators used a different method. What method that they used was dynamic equivalency, which is thought for thought. So one author has counted over 4,000 examples of the use of dynamic equivalency, So word for word, they did thought for thought. This means that the little words of the original text was changed 4,000 times to contemporary words. Scholars talk about it. So if you said, is this a true word for word? I'd have to say, no, it's not. It was word for word, but because they decided to use dynamic equivalency in it, it's not a word for word. It's a mixture of word for word and dynamic equivalency. Okay? I'm flashing and I'm not sure what I'm flashing about. Okay. On modern version using contemporary words, easy to understand in the King James. Now here's something else I want you to look at. The facts do not support this. The Flash King James grade level indicator reveals that the King James Version is easier of all versions to be read. The King James Version reads on a 5.8 grade level. Okay? The NIV reads on an 8.4. So you'd have to be higher in grades to be able to read and understand the NIV. And the NASB is a 6.1. So the easiest to understand Bible of these Bibles is the King James. It's written in simpler terms. That old 1611 English is easier to understand. You can read that. It's people at a 5th grade, 5.8 grade level versus a 6.84 and a 6.1. Why is the NIV so different from other versions of the Bible? Answer from the NIV, this is what they tell you. Unlike the translators of the King James Bible or the New American Standard Bible, the translators of the New International Version use a dynamic equivalency method. The objective of this method is that the Word of God should have the same dynamic effect on the modern reader as it did on the ancient reader. And they will say we sought to achieve more than a word-for-word translation, better than. One of the advantages of my translation method is that my translators chose contemporary words to express the thought. This version is saying, no, I'm not a word for word, I'm better than a word for word, I'm a thought for thought, and these thoughts have even been expressed in contemporary English so you could understand it. That's really their selling point. They are selling this Bible, you realize that? This has a copyright. This has a copyright, and to get a copyright you got to be at least 25% different. While these are sold because the printer sells them, this has no copyright. I could write it, I could put as much of this Bible in any sermon I want or any book I want. It's not copyright without permission. All right, that takes us to, but you see the different techniques of translation use the methodology of using how they translated. Not only did they have different texts, they used different methods. So these different methods, what makes a difference. Now let's see, what time is it? Okay. Have you got your questions? Good. I covered them right quick. That's my intent. Brother Danny does a great job, doesn't he? Preaching, I think he does. But I was sitting here thinking that he wouldn't have no trouble with it. It's a wonder you didn't hear half my sermon and half my lesson this morning in Sunday school and half my lesson and half my keeping your mind on one particular subject and changing gears. Brother Danny is a great preacher, does well with that. All right, let's look at our question. We'll answer them right quick. Reinforce what we just studied. Number one, we continue our lesson this week on the blank of translation. Techniques. By the way of introduction, we note the King James and modern version come to us from different what? Texts, and also from different techniques. One of the basic reasons so many versions of the Bible is this, is they were prepared by using different methods and techniques of translation. The basic methods of Bible translation which are used, and the number one was on King James, blank or blank technique.
Formal or literal.
Formal or literal. The second one was dynamic equivalency. And the third one, the
Free method.
free method, which is a living Bible, is a good example. The formal or literal technique, the method which the Bible is translated blank from the original language to English. Word for word. The dynamic equivalency technique, the method with the Bible is translated blank for blank. Thought for thought. The free method technique is a method that's not word for word or thought for thought from the original language, but is best described as a paraphrase. The formal or literal technique is a method used to construct the
King
James Version. Okay? And partially true concerning the New American Standard, but it's it's a hybrid, it has different techniques. Part of it was also the former or literal techniques or method used to construct the black. What's that just said?
King James.
Well, King James, but there's another, what's the other one that used it also? New American Standard
Oh, yeah.
did use, they did from a different text, use that from a lot of their Bible, okay? But it had a mixed way. But it came from blank Greek text,
Have no idea.
different Greek text, used by the King James, and also many words
Thank you,
changed
Tom.
into what kind of English?
Contemporary.
Contemporary. The dynamic equivalency technique was the method used to construct blank version. New International. And remember why it's called International? I'll be honest with you, I just didn't catch that even when I first wrote the book. Why is it international? Because they had over 100 different, translated from 100 countries. So international translators, okay? The English language of blank was more compatible for translation from the original language than the contemporary English of today is. 1611, that's right. While the NASB is considered by many to be a literal word-for-word translation, one writer noted it had employed, and I got that twice, employed the use of blank in over 4,000 places. Dynamic equivalency. Contrary to popular opinion, the flesh can grade level indicator reveals a blank version is easy to understand.
King James.
King James. A lot of the translators of the KJV or NASB translated a blank use dynamic equivalency,
NIV.
and its translators also chose
Contemporary.
contemporary words. So really you kind of understand it's two reasons that Bibles are different. Different text, modern Bibles, King James, different techniques used to actually do the translation, which made these Bibles much different. Y'all write it down, I get points. 10 out there, we fit the work. Like I said, if you really want an illustration, if Brother Jim and I was trying to talk, like we might have talked to these young folks, we might say, man, that's groovy, that's cool. What would the teenagers think when we said that? You see what I'm saying? Words that might have meant something back in your early days,
Different.
they don't matter. English just changed rapidly, those kind of words just changed. But the King James the words were clearer, easier to understand, and they stay the same generation